Episode number 210.
One verb was a performance verb and the other was a process verb. What verbs you choose based on your audience really makes a difference. There's just a lot of information in there that'll help anyone convey data in a really compelling way.
Welcome to the Be Real Show with Travis Too Tall and Huff, where we talk about life, dreams, social media, and business.
Well, hello and welcome to the Be Real Show with Travis Too Tall and Huff. Folks, I'm fired up today. We are coming in a new year, but I'm so pumped today, folks, because we got our featured guest, Nancy Duarte. Nancy, are you ready to be real?
I am, Travis. Thanks.
And she is being real. She is a busy woman, folks. Nancy is the author of DataStory, explaining your data and inspiring action through your story. And so that's fascinating. We're going to talk about that. She's also contributed her expertise to places like MIT, folks, Forbes, as well as a regular contributor to Harvard Business Review, Thrive Global, LinkedIn Influencers Program, which is awesome. And then she's been featured on my boy Lewis House Show, is amazing.
I love him, yeah.
Entrepreneur on Fire, my boy. He's one of the guys that inspired me to start my show. John Lee Dumas. I remember listening to his show many, many moons ago. Just like, I could start my own show too one day, and I actually did that year. Hasn't taken off exactly like his as far as monetization, but my business and the people and the influence I've met has completely changed the trajectory of my life, folks. Just from starting a piece of content, a show. And as well, folks, she has an engaged following. I checked out her LinkedIn right now. You're like 175,000 connections or followers on there. She has overall 235,000 connections, folks. But we're excited to have you on the show today. First, Nancy, how's your day going?
I'm having a good day so far.
Having a good day? Yeah, it's Monday.
Yeah.
We're getting things going, right?
Yeah, I've been killing it so far. I'm an early bird. So
are you? What time do you wake up usually?
I'm usually up no later than 6. So sometimes if I have like a lot of writing and cool creative stuff, sometimes when I'm in book writing, I wake up as early as 4, and I just love the morning. I do my best thinking. So
that's awesome. So tell me first about the business, and then we'll get into the book DataStory. How long have you been running your business, Duarte?
Yeah. So we've been around 31 years here in the Silicon Valley. Yeah. And so we're helping millions of people communicate better so that they can change themselves and their organizations in the process. And so we do that through communication planning and story-infused presentations and help you just deliver a killer talk. So we'll either do it for you or we will teach you to become skilled at it yourself. So
that's a very fascinating industry.
Have a great time. Yeah. I have 140 people. We just crank and serve the highest performing brands in the world. So we have a really good time. So I have a ton of unicorns here. So it's fun. And
everyone's trying to figure out a way I'm sure at some point too, are you putting together slide decks and presentations for getting funding? I'm sure in the area you're at, that's what it's all about. The name of the game.
No kidding.
Telling the story.
Pitch decks, man. Those
decks.
We do IPOs. We do Series A, B, and C.
Nice.
We do a lot of B2B. You think about presentations; they're like the lingua franca of commerce when you're B2B too. And so
absolutely.
We stay real busy. And then for this book, I I pulled just the data slides out of the last 15 years or so from our highest performing brands. And that's where this book came from, was really finding patterns just among the data. So it was real fun. So we kind of use our own material as an anthropological dig to pull things up so that the everyday person can learn from these really powerful execs and brands.
Because I think that's so important, Nancy. I think you're so right. Data is everything now, right? Literally Facebook and Google and Amazon are data companies.
Yeah, that is interesting. No kidding.
When you really think about it, it's like your most valuable thing on earth. They say, obviously, of your bank account, but your data is so important.
Well, they say, somebody made a quote and people keep saying it, that data is the new oil. And the weird thing is it's of no use to you if you don't know how to look at it and determine the problem or the opportunity you find in it. And then you have a communication problem. So you can have all the data in the world, but until you know how to find the problem or the opportunity and then communicate it, the data is of no use. It's not oil. It's not, oil is no good while it's still in the ground, really, right? So you really got to pull the data up and out of this vat of where it lies and then do something with it and make use of it through actions.
I love it. You have on your LinkedIn, it says data doesn't speak for itself. it needs a storyteller, and
Exactly.
think about that, because otherwise it's just ones and zeros or percentages or whatever, right?
The charts, yeah.
Charts,
and some people, there's a real split in people. Like some people get really mad about that statement because they're like, well, if you have to add narrative to it, the data is no longer pure, which isn't true, because the action you need to take from the data is never explicit in the data. You have to have a communicator say, the data said this. Hey, the chart's headed the wrong direction. Therefore, we need to take this action. And then rallying people around that action is a communication problem. It's not a data problem.
And where would you say for most businesses? Because I know you work with some of the top businesses, some of the top Fortune 500 businesses, as well as women-led businesses, and as well as your business is a female-driven business. My question to you is, where do you start to find that data? Where's the best place for people to even say, oh, I don't even know, Nancy, where my data is? What are you talking about? Is it the website? Is it your customer list?
Yeah.
Some people might think that way,
Everything we have right now is data. Everything. Every time we create anything digital, it is turned into data. So there's marketing data, there's HR data, there is massive amounts of sales data. Every SaaS system that anyone's like, we just put in Paylocity, and there's payroll data, there's tax data. All that stuff is data. And then the biggest one is user data. You've got Internet of Things data. You've got your sales, like what regions are you selling and what products are you selling? Every time you have a SKU or you have to scan any UPC code, all that stuff is creating a digital exhaust. And you got to collect it and categorize it and turn it into useful information.
And so if someone's looking at their data right now in 2020, where's the best thing? What do you want to look at when you look at the data?
Well, it's interesting. So it depends. Obviously, it depends on what your role is. Like if you're curing cancer, that's different than trying to figure out how to do better SEO on your website.
Right.
It's everything. So most decisions now are either made through data or validated through data. And one of the things that's a concern to me is, as an entrepreneur, so much. Even just 10 years ago, you just kind of listened to the market and you just moved forward. You knew the direction. And so even on my own exec team meeting, we'll have this great idea. We'll all feel great about it. We'll say, yes, let's make that decision. It's a go. And then somebody inevitably will say, maybe we should find data to support this decision. And so sometimes it slows you down, right? But I think mostly it points in a direction, because to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be about 18 months ahead in the future. I have to know in 18 months almost exactly what my customers are going to desire, how the market is going to shift, and how I need to change my organization to be ready for them when they're in this other place. I better be where they're at, or I lose and fail. So businesses fail, small businesses fail every 4 years. The bulk of them, more than 54%, I think was the last statistic, fail in 4 years. So every business needs to reinvent themselves about every 4 years and be a little bit different place in the future than they are today. And data can help drive where you need to be, what your clients want, what your clients are looking for. And just the nuance in consumer behavior can destroy a business if you're not ready for it.
Oh, yeah. Think about Blockbuster, folks. They could have bought Netflix and a few other the platforms, they say, just with some of their research and development budgets. I always think about Sears. Don't you think they should have capitalized on data?
Everyone should capitalize on data.
Yeah. Just think about though, like I think that it's, they said that there's a new stat that it's like, it's harder than ever to stay in the Fortune 500. Now, more than ever,
I can imagine.
Even if you make it to the top businesses, it's like so hard to stay there.
I think they're going to tumble, right? And what has happened is the ones that have become data centric or definitely have the top, but then look at what can happen so quickly with a data leak or a data breach.
Right.
And who really owns data? So here, if you say data is the new oil, who owns all this oil?
Yes.
And does any of that oil have rights and security and user rights? And so it's going to get really interesting. So to run a business today, you can't really, even your finances are considered data, like your sales numbers, your revenue, your costs, your overhead, all that's based on data too. So many decisions are made from data, just day to day operationally.
Is there a good amount of time to look at that data? Like I'm saying, is it year to date? Is it 6 months? Is it, like say you're looking at something, you're like my social media data. Well, I can pull back, 10 years ago, you get probably more organic reach than you are today.
And there's definitely different kinds of data. So there's data that I would call situational. So let's say you wanted to know how one of your salespeople's performing or why this account is down. You might be able to run one piece of data just that month to see that one piece is situational so that you could help your sales guy get unstuck or whatever. Then there's what I call operational data. And that's usually driven from dashboards where it's like you look at it monthly or weekly or daily because you're wanting to carefully watch the numbers turn and move over time so that you have a historical count. And then there's what I call strategic data. And these are big decisions that are made from collections of data. So you might commission some research. You might talk to customers and do some research, get some market analysis. You might get some trend information. You might run your own data, and you take all these different resources of data to make a big strategic decision like, where does my company need to be in 18 months? Yes. You synthesize lots of data because you can't make that kind of a decision in a vacuum. You need to be pretty confident you're headed the right direction. And I would call that using data to make strategic decisions. So there's situational, operational, and then strategic decisions. And you each scenario is a little bit different, but sometimes you just need one little tiny piece of data and you're done, and the others all the way to synthesizing these big vats of data to try to make a big strategic decision.
Do you find are businesses trying to move that way? I mean, I always feel like businesses, like when I worked at the Disney Corporation, I remember coming up with some great ideas for the ABC television brand, and it always would get slopped down at some point. You know what I mean? Oh, we can't do that. We can't put this person in the news. We can't do this. And now I see this stuff happening all the time because obviously they're running for money. Right? Let's just be real, folks. When digital hit, the TV business changed. All of a sudden, they're doing a lot more sponsored things and this and this and that. But the point
it's interesting. I mean, even data is driving the programming. So Netflix now has historical. They have user information that likes to watch this kind of programming, or they binge watch on this kind of information. And so some of the shows even that come out now are solely based on data and their appetite. So it plays a role everywhere. Maybe if they had data back then, you would have been less of a novelty.
It was
People
different.
Would have been like, they would have just known. Yeah.
It was, but it feels like even in bigger organizations, it's harder for them to move, right? And make that strategic decision. Like you said, maybe they have the situational or the operational data, but then when they get at the board meeting, they got, 12 board members or whatever the board is. And the next thing you know, it's hard to get a cooperative decision at that level, right? And so then these businesses might be going out of business because they don't make these strategic decisions, even if they have the data. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how deep the research has been about why companies fail or why, especially they fall off the Fortune, like the ones that were on the Fortune 500 list. Right. There's been a lot of turnover there, and some big brands, even like GE and stuff, are like moving their way down that list. So it really is about being on top of your game and watching trends and understanding data and all of that stuff.
And I always say too, just listening to your customer. I always my two businesses were created because I listened to my buddy, and he said at Starbucks 2009, he said people are going to need their business pages, Facebook pages managed, and that was the golden ticket, folks, for me. And the second was earlier this year, my client says I need a software to help me manage my reputation better.
Exactly. Isn't that funny?
Like, boom! Let's start my next business. Real-time reputation. Here we go.
Exactly. And it's.
He was my first paying customer. He was my first paying customer. He's that's the whole cool thing about listening, right? And I think that's what data really provides, is listening to who these.
Yeah, that's a good way to frame it. It's exactly the way to frame it, is you listen, but then you still have to take action. And that's where leadership and management comes in, right? We're supposed to not just like watch the data pass by. We're supposed to watch the data so we know the action to take. And that DataStory, the book, is all about how do you define what the action is, and how do you make that action so clear? Like, I literally studied verbs. I went through thousands of slides, and I just pulled the verbs off from these high-performing brands and categorized them and said, wow, I started to see a pattern. They had two different kinds of energy. One verb was a performance verb, and the other was a process verb. And what verbs you choose based on your audience really makes a difference. And so there's just a lot of information in there that'll help anyone convey data in a really compelling way.
And we're definitely going to put that in the show notes. And I saw that you guys are on Apple Books now too. I was looking at your LinkedIn. That's awesome.
Kindle and
everywhere. Anywhere. You just type in DataStory anywhere, and you'll be finding that. Well, now, Nancy, we're about to take you into our top 10. Are you ready?
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Apple or Android?
Ooh, Apple.
Netflix or YouTube?
YouTube.
And talk about data. Think about them having some crazy data with their algorithm.
I know.
God, it's insane. Instagram or Facebook?
Instagram.
Chicken or steak?
Steak.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite cut of steak?
Ribeye.
Nice. Oh, that's a good one right there. Laptop or smartphone?
Laptop.
Spotify or Pandora?
Pandora.
Movies or video games?
Movies. Hallmark Channel mostly.
Oh, nice. Those are some good ones on there.
It kind of makes people wonder why I'm a story expert when I say Hallmark Channel, but
yes, you're right. Oh, that's interesting. Hallmark. Yeah. Talk about a great brand that's transitioned beyond cards and things like that. Reading books or listening to books?
Oh, I do both. 50-50.
Oh, nice. Okay. Stocks or real estate when you're talking about investing?
I'm real estate. Husband is stocks.
Oh, okay. Nice. Oceans or lakes? When you're going on a vacation, maybe. Oceans? Yeah, okay.
Mountains. If it was mountains and oceans, I'd be mountains. But oceans and lakes, I'd be oceans.
Oceans all day. Okay. So when you wake up in the morning and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, what is one of your biggest passions right now? What is when you're like, I got to get more of this. I got to do more of this.
Right now, I'm obsessing over entrepreneurship. I am one. I'm at the peak of my game, and I feel like we're ready to get back. So hubby and I are going to start like a video blog and let people know how we did it. Yeah. So that's what I'm kind of distracted by right now. Is he a big
motivation in your business? Does he help you in a lot of ways? It sounds like you have a great relationship.
Well, we have a great relationship. So being married to an entrepreneur is has its challenges. Sure. And I think we did it. Our kids turned out, we love each other, so we have a lot to share. And so I'm excited about that.
What kind of business does he do? What kind of business?
Well, he actually founded the company in 88. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, and so he put 2 years in. I joined in 90, and then he got carpal tunnel about 92. And so I've been kind of running the strategy and growth for the 30 of the years that we've been in business. And so he, he's the founder, and so we always honor him and stuff. But we work together, so we do talk about the business.
Absolutely,
he still does the finances and stuff like that. But he's back to his fine art now. So he's doing his fine art at home. It's really beautiful.
What kind of art? So what kind of fine art? Okay, I mean, we do paint nights.
Yeah, so he's doing oils right now. So he did watercolors when he was young, but he's really masterful at oils. He just started his Instagram account, and so he's really happy just doing that and not being as active in the business.
Right. And talk about a great generation for artists. You can actually put your stuff out on Instagram.
I know. He's really having fun.
Yeah. It's so cool because they talk about some of the greatest artists, could imagine how their art's now spread, and so because back then they didn't really have a way to get it out to people, it was just like whoever was in the little village, you saw that, and that was Picasso or whatever, it's amazing now. I think that's the coolest thing about being an artist or a podcaster or anything that's in content is that you now have a platform to put it out there. And it's so fascinating about that. Do you think you'll ever retire?
I don't know. I think retirement looks a lot like what I do now, right? I get up early, I contemplate, I think, I write, I do really cool phone calls with cool people. Like I try to imagine what would retirement look like.
Right.
And it kind of looks like that a bit. So I'm trying to figure that out now. But that's what
you're living your dream right now.
I kind of am. And we just it's so fun. We just did our 10-year plan.
Oh, nice.
And when you said what excites me when I look in the mirror, it's like, I am so fired up about where we're headed. And and so the whole team's energized right now. I have a highly, highly functioning executive team, and that's been fun. And it just makes you braver when you have a smart team surrounding you. So I'm super
They push you in a way too, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. I can always see that. I see that in your energy too.
Yeah.
I feel that in your energy. That's awesome. Well, I think y'all are in a gold mine, not gold mine. We shouldn't say that, but there's a gold rush to data and trying to figure it out and security and protection, as well as also understanding it, how to make these pivots and doing it, like you said, now for 5 years from now, offering these services now, figuring out a way at least to get them on your docket. So like you said, in 18 months, you need to be having this service ready for your customer.
Exactly.
Or be ahead of the market on this.
Exactly.
So you start your days early. How do you typically like to start your day? Do you have a routine? You said you like to write.
Yeah. So I, get up, make my coffee.
Of course. Of course.
It depends. So I have different modalities. So I have these, I'm in a making modality. I get up and I start to work right away. But when I'm not, I usually go on a walk. I do some stretching. I do some prayer time and all of that. So it's kind of an ebbing, it's like a episodic nature to what I'm doing. So, but when I'm like on a book deadline and stuff, I'm amped up in a little bit of a different way and committed. I'll sit determined for 15 hours a day sitting in a chair. Right. And then when I don't have to be that, I'm untethered, man. I'm up and about and traveling and doing all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of interesting and weird.
The ebbs and flows of life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we create our own lives. So you've created
this. We do.
It's
amazing.
Do
create our own lives.
You've created this scale of, your business has grown and it's going to even scale even further in the future. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
The books and the opportunities that will come from that and the value you've given to people by them understanding is, I think, another thing that is a windtail to your sales for many years, is like people reading this book and getting inspired and having their businesses change and then coming back and thanking you in 20 years and saying, thank you, Nancy, and you'll be somewhere with your husband doing something and next thing you know, someone's going to say, thank you, you changed my life. I'm sure you've already experienced that some way along the journey, but just imagine 20 years, you never know continually how these things happen. Like they say, the butterfly flying somewhere here is affecting, a tornado somewhere else. It's just fascinating.
Yeah.
So I give you a lot of shout out for your discipline and journey. Do you have a skill you want to master? Is there something you're like, I want to get better at?
I think my goal, and it's infused in all my books and everything at the core and heart of it all is empathy. And I think all of us, that should be our master quest, is to empathetically understand others. And so I don't know if I'll ever master it, but what I've done is I've spent a chunk of my life trying to create mental models and physical models for people where they will be able to pause and think of others before they communicate. And the only reason I'm trying to have mastery of it is because it was just a void in my life. I was raised by a narcissistic mom and she never modeled empathy for me. And so literally dropped out of speech communications in college because I got an A on the visuals, but I failed in empathy. And then that failure all those years ago has kind of become my life quest of, wait, how do I bring content to the table that the other person needs, not me. It's not about me and being the central figure and me pronouncing and saying all the things I think are important. It's about me really, really understanding what the other person needs and delivering that instead.
And sometimes it can be hard to do, right? For people. I mean, I know showing empathy is such a hard thing in this world. I try to think that way all the time. I sometimes say, open a door for an asshole. And it sounds like rude, but really what it means is there's always that person that looks like they have a grumpy face. But if you do something nice for them, you'll see that little bit of empathy of hey, you know what? I'm serving you for this 2 seconds it takes to open a door. Shows that person how empathy in a way, right? And it changes the outlook of their trajectory every single time they see you, for instance, at the gym or somewhere else in life.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, that person was really cool that they did that for me, It's such a simple task that we could do. Empathy.
Yeah.
Open the door for someone is a sign of empathy, I think, in a way. Small way. Do you have a favorite app that you like using on a daily basis?
I've been doing a few things. I just loaded one today, and I love it so far. It's called Zero. It's that intermittent fasting app. So I do that. I use Pocket, which is when I come across a URL on my computer or on my phone, and I don't have time right then to read it. You just store it, and then I can read articles on the airplane. It's like I can serve up the content it helps me manage my day because you can get sucked into cruising through the internet.
Yes.
Like if you're a hummingbird, you can get sucked away. And then I have a app called the Bible Project that I love.
Oh wow, Bible Project!
And it has you pause and breathe and read some Psalms, and it's beautifully, it's illustrated. It's really beautiful. So I like that one.
You pull that out throughout the day then as well.
I'm usually at night or in the morning.
Got you.
It's kind of when I'm meditating and trying to read kind of sacred texts, have that kind of moment in the day where it's not about anything but, the spiritual realm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I try to spend time in that. And I just have a handful of things I do.
That's cool. Bible Project. I'll check that one out too.
Yeah,
I've heard
really
many great things about Pocket. I've got to figure this one out too.
It's super easy.
I've heard that was the best one. That's one of the best ones because there's Evernote. Yeah. There's a lot of different ones, but I've heard that one's somewhat the easiest and best one.
Yeah. It's just super simple.
Put it in your pocket.
Exactly.
A couple last questions here because I know we got to roll. Is Be Real tonight for a ribeye steak dinner? They're coming to you in Santa Clara, Silicon Valley. You get anyone in the world to come to you tonight for a dinner. Who would it be?
Well, first of all, I'm having a root canal, so I don't get to have ribeye tonight.
No ribeye tonight. We're going vegetarian. We're going light.
Let me think. If I could have anybody, I do that a lot. We do this thing called Wine in the Veranda. We host people in groups and have these really meaningful storytelling things. You know, it's so funny. I've met so many cool people. I don't have a desperate quest of who. It would be a business person for sure. Maybe Richard Branson or
that's a good one.
Somebody who's done something meaningful at a really big scale. And
he seems to always find a way to pivot too. I mean, he's Virgin Galactic now. It's
exactly. You know, and the typical Oprah, Brene Brown. You know, I think I probably have the same people on my list anyone else would.
Right.
I love just sitting around chit-chatting with my husband. He's so full of wisdom, and he makes me belly laugh every day. So if I had to choose one in the world, and it was the only one, it was my last conversation, it'd actually be with him. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. It's cool that you have such a great, admiration and respect for him too.
I do. He's a man full of wisdom.
That is awesome.
Kindness. He's just opposite. His energy is opposite of me. He's a calming force. Which is nice. Yes. Yeah,
that's why he's probably a good painter too, because you got to be calm.
You do. You have to be calm. Yeah,
paint for hours sitting there at the canvas. You don't know what the masterpiece look like. You don't know
exactly.
And has there been one book besides yours, the DataStory, that has changed your life?
Yeah, you know what? I went on a 3.5-year journey through story and storytelling, and I read every book about screenwriting, about literary structures, memoir structure. I just did a really deep research on story. And my favorite book, believe it or not, is this one by a guy named Chris Vogler. It's called The Writer's Journey. And it really got into the structure of story and the archetypes. And that's where it was like, oh my God, the mentor inserts itself at a certain point in a story. And every business owner, every communicator is the mentor of the story, not the hero of the story. And it was through studying that book. If people that are listening want to really get their head around story in a really quick way and be one of the smartest people at a cocktail party, read that book about story. It's really good.
We'll definitely put that in the show notes. That's awesome. I love that. We're all the mentor business owners. That's fascinating to say.
Yeah.
We're not the store. We're not the hero.
Exactly.
If you could give our listeners, Nancy, one last real talk thought, what would that be?
That would be eat your vegetables. No.
Yes. Drink water.
No. I think it would be, I would love everyone obviously to buy my book, but
of course, yes.
I do think that communication will change the world, and it is a discipline, and it is not easy, because if communicating was easy, we would all be really strong communicators. So I would say set aside the time to be really disciplined in learning and commit to practicing being a strong communicator.
And where's the best place for people to find you, on social or online?
Yeah, so Duarte.com is the company. I'm
Absolutely.
On Twitter. I'm on Facebook at Nancy Duarte. And then I do connect to anyone who connects me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you folks. You've been hanging out with Nancy Duarte and Travis Too Tall and Huff. I want to thank you again for your time today, and let's keep being real. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Real-Time Reputation. Do you have results and reputation that you need to uncover and find out in your business? Do you need more reviews and positive reviews to be showcased on your website? Well, now's the time. Check out Real-Time Reputation on Google, and let's get going. What another epic episode. And if you enjoyed the episode today, can you please do me a favor and subscribe to our podcast, The Be Real Show, on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform, and also take a little time today, if you don't mind, and give your boy T Huff a review. I would really super appreciate it, and thank you so much for listening today.